friends, welcome back to the channel and to a little long weekend vlog I thought I would do for you today. It has been a slow start to the year, but I am in the mood to chit chat. And this is the first time I put on like real clothes and makeup in a while, so I thought that would be nice. We got back from the UK, I had family stuff to do, and now I'm just settling back into work rhythms, home admin, you know how it is. But Tom and I are celebrating our 8-year anniversary today, which is very exciting. That is, yeah, we've been together since we met when we were 20 and we started dating when we were 21, so a long time, all of our 20s basically. And we're not big anniversary, like we don't do big fancy dinners or anything like that, but we're gonna go get some brunch and go to the cinema. We're gonna go and see Queer, which is that new sort of art housey type film with Daniel Craig in it that looked quite good. There was lots of things actually I wanted to see at the cinema, but that one was on in the middle of the day, which is my favourite time to go to the cinema, so we're gonna do that. I did want to talk to you about what I'm reading. I just finished, and actually I'm heartbroken guys, just finished Hagstone by Sinead Glasson and I loved it, and then I left my Kobu down the side of Siska, my friend's sofa, because I was staying the night at hers on the way back to Amsterdam, and now I'm without Kobu, which is so upsetting because I think I said in my last video and over on Instagram that I've been loving e-reading so much, it's so convenient. So I'm back to physical books, which definitely means my reading slowed a little bit, but I've also done some kind of dislocation thing to my left shoulder blade, which makes knitting really hard at the minute, or definitely not for more than like 10 minutes at a time, so I'm gonna have to pick up my physical books because there's nothing else to do. I did start last night Breaststrokes by Margot Villaron, who's a lovely Instagram friend of mine, and her publisher sent this to me when it came out last year, and I took it on 2 different trips and never got round to it, and I just keep meaning to. But after reading Hagstone and really feeling that sort of watery, I don't know, something about the sea, feeling like that, especially in the winter, it's something very magical about it, so I knew I wanted to read something that had kind of more watery themes, and as you can see by the cover, I think this one will too. So this follows 4 different women from 3 different points of view, because we see one like pair of women together. So we have Chloe and Gertrude, and then these 2 sisters, Matilda and Sarah. And we see from lots of different points of view of their like weekend, but they all interconnect in different ways. So like Gertrude works at the pub where Matilda and Sarah meet up once a month to plan Matilda's wedding, and they have like a complicated and dysfunctional relationship. They also have another sibling that they talk about, and it just felt so easy to fall into this story. I really enjoyed the tone of the writing. There's some really beautiful sentences already, some wonderful metaphors that just felt really poignant and moving, but not overwrought, and like I'm really already invested in these women's lives, so I'm really keen to keep going, and I'm kind of kicking myself that it's taking me so long to pick this up. But I did also, like I say, really enjoy Hagstone, so that, and it's a book I didn't realise I was going to love as much as I did. This follows Nell, an artist who lives on this remote island where there is a history of sort of, not the occult, but just sort of like unusual superstitious circumstances. So there's this group of women who live in the outermost corner of the island called the Inyons, and they are a community, collective, commune, some say cult, very isolated from the rest of the world and from the rest of the island. Lots of them have sort of come running from other parts of the world, from horrible circumstances or lives, or just feeling that need to escape sort of the emotional labour of being a woman in the world. And Nell is invited by the head Inyon to come and write and produce a piece of work to celebrate 30 years of them being there, and she gets sort of the first insight into the commune because they're very closed off and they don't let a lot of people in. And Nell herself is an outsider on the island. She is perceived as strange, almost witch-like, because she chooses to live in isolation, because she makes art, because she doesn't engage in the way that some of the islanders think she should with community. And we follow her various relationships on the island, and then her relationship she's building with the members in the commune. And then there's this secondary subplot about this idea called the sound, which, if you've read The Listeners by Jordan Tannehill, it's essentially this idea of that there is external noise that bombards a place that has no root, that can't be identified as being caused by something, and some people can hear it and some people can't. So it's kind of a play on like tinnitus, or sort of, yeah, these incidences of tracing back to like mass hysteria, and really interesting. And I really enjoy descriptions of auditory experiences like that. I found it very atmospheric. And like I say, yeah, we follow Nell's interpersonal relationships and then her experiences of creating work. She's very broke, she applies to a lot of funding. She talks about what it's like to be on the island and isolation versus sort of claustrophobia. I really enjoyed it. It has sort of a gripping mystery type plot, or this building feeling that you kind of get when you read, if you've read any of Sarah Moss's work, that eerie atmosphere that builds, you know, something untoward is going to happen. But it also has beautiful descriptions of the sea, of swimming, of the ocean, of history, of sort of, yeah, those touches of witchcraft and sort of, yeah, historical women that come before Nell who have been subjected to various things on the island. So I really enjoyed Hagstone, actually, and I think a lot of my friends will as well. So we'll continue to be raving about that. When I was in the UK, we also went to a couple of bookshops, so I want to grab those books for you. First, my mum and I picked up a copy of Disappoint Me by Nicola Dinnan. We both loved Bellies, so I knew this was like the only book I needed to get when I was back in the UK, because I knew it might be slightly more affordable than buying it here in the Netherlands, although it is a hardback, which is a bummer, but my Bellies copy is a hardback, so I don't mind. And my mum kindly bought this one, and we're going to share it. I'm going to read it first, and then when I next see her, I will lend it back to her. So I think I featured this in a radar video. Nicola Dinnan is a trans woman who writes about, her first book was about sort of young people coming of age, their experiences with gender and sexuality, and really nuanced and careful and empathetic relationships. And this one, I think, follows a person in their 30s, so we'll call it sort of like one decade older. Max is a grossly overpaid legal counsel for a tech company. Is she living her best life? The debris of years of dysphoria and failed relationships rattle in her head. When she tumbles down the stairs and wakes up in a hospital alone, she has to make some changes. First of all, a stab at good old-fashioned heteronormativity. And Nicola Dinnan, in her first book, also wrote about sort of the cultural expectations of being trans in communities that she is has experience with. So in the first book, I think part of the book set in Malaysia, and I think in this book one of Max's partners, like essentially her in-laws, are Chinese, and talks about how they understand transness. So really excited to read that one. Then we went to, then I have one more from Waterstones. Tom, this is the one that Tom chose, but we will be sharing it. I saw this on Carolyn's channel. If you guys don't watch her, she makes beautiful, gentle reading blogs. And this is set in Ireland, and it follows 17-year-old Noel. He finds himself back in Faha, a small Irish parish where nothing ever changes, including the ever-falling rain. But one morning the rain stops and news reaches the parish that electricity is finally arriving. With it comes a lodger to Noel's home, Christy McMahon, and though he can't explain it, he knows right then that something has changed. So, and also when I picked this up and bought it in Waterstones, the bookseller said it was one of her favourite books she's read in recent times. So I was like, oh, two recommendations. So it has this sort of macro plot about the bringing of electricity to this small village, and the bookseller also said she loved the sort of various rabbit holes and tangents that the community characters would go down, and she said it felt very like small Irish town gossip, which was really enjoyable, and she said it took her a while to get into it, but then she couldn't stop. So that's one we will both be reading. Then we went to a Farah Books. There's a really good Farah Books in a town, like one over from my mum's, but was near where we were at the hospital. And the people there, they donate some great things. It was so reasonable, so we all had a field day. But I tried to stay restrained. I picked up Send News by Sabah Sams. I loved Gunk, as I told you, and I've already read this book, but I read it on my e-reader as a proof, like when it came out. So when I saw a beautiful pristine copy, I've always loved this cover as well. I think the pink and the orange, the bag of orange is so brilliant. So it was £4 and I picked it up. And then Tom chose a copy of The Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh, excuse me. This is set in Bengal on an immense archipelago of islands. Here for 100 years, only the truly dispossessed brave the man-eating tigers and the crocodiles to eke out a precarious existence from the mud. And it follows sort of like a young person arriving who is from Indian parentage but stubbornly American, and a sophisticated Delhi businessman to disturb the delicate balance of settlement life. I think this is sort of an environmentalism novel, but also a saga in some ways, and Tom has said he had been meaning to read another book from this author for a while, so that's what he grabbed. And then finally I have 2 books that were sent to me very kindly from the publisher. This is a backlist title that was sent to me, but it's called Jen Ashworth's Notes Made by Falling. I've been meaning to read this for ages. It was shortlisted for the Gordon Byrne the year it was published, which is a prize I really enjoy. And it's a memoir and cultural study of traumatized and sickened selves in fiction and film. I'm working on like a project with a friend here in Amsterdam. Hopefully you'll hear more about it if you are a local. And I think I'm looking for more text that I can sort of share in the project, and I think this will have some great pieces in it, so that's kind of a work read. And then I was sent Sweat by Emma Healy, who wrote Elizabeth is Missing, which was such a cult book when I was sort of getting back into reading as an adult, and this sounds entirely different to that. It's set around a personal trainer at a gym and a woman and a toxic relationship, all wrapped up in sort of body and embodied self. So I'm kind of intrigued about this one. I lost the piece of paper which has the blurb on it, but when I read it I will for sure be telling you. That's all I have for now. I'll give you a knitting update later. I will actually just show you one thing. I just knit and blocked a small swatch of my friend's cardi that I'm making her for like her hen do and her getting ready on her wedding morning, which is obviously a big undertaking, but I'm really excited, and I knit this up so she could feel it next to her skin because I wanted to make sure. This is Drops alpaca and alpaca silk. It's a beautiful fluffy material. I definitely would make one for myself in this, and I took her measurements when I saw her last weekend, so that's exciting. That's the next thing I'm going to cast on. I need to check actually gauge, but I think I should be good. Anyway, let's get to the cinema. I'll catch up with knitting things probably this afternoon or tomorrow. I am looking a bit ruddy. I just came back from the bakery. I took myself there to finish a piece of work that was due that I just was procrastinating so badly, and I really wanted to bleed into my weekend, or any more into my weekend. So I went and did that and I finished it in an hour. So what was I even fussing about? Who's to say? But it's so cold. It says it feels like -9 outside because of the wind and the cutting down trees on our road, so it's pretty noisy. I am gonna do some life admin. Wow, my stuffed animal collection's getting a bit out of hand over there. I'm gonna do some life admin, and then Tom and I are watching, well, he's re-watching, but I'm watching for the first time, The White Lotus. He has been on at me to watch this for I don't know, since it came out. What was that, like 2 years ago? And I was so stubborn, like the more times he told me, the more I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. But I was actually having a really rubbish day yesterday. I didn't film anything, I was just feeling shitty. I've really hurt my back, and so I can't knit, and that's my main coping mechanism for feeling bad. So I think I was just in a bit of a spiral. So we watched a couple of episodes and I was like, yeah, I guess this is alright. And mostly my impetus for watching this was the new season's coming out in a couple of weeks and it's set in Thailand. Tom was like, you're really gonna want to watch this, and I was like, true. So we started that, which is good. There's also suddenly a lot of good TV that's suddenly come out. I really want to watch the new Sky Atlantic Mussolini drama series, and as well as that Netflix one about the woman who, like the scammer who fakes cancer. What else are we talking about on Sky? There's a documentary about January 6th, which shares, I think, from the point of view of the son of the guy, like one of the biggest members of the alt-right group. So yeah, suddenly I'm inundated with telly to watch, which is very unlike me. But we're also going to do some cooking. I got a new cookbook for Christmas, actually. Let me show you it. It's a Minnesota one. I hate my kitchen, so I never refilm in her. Called Dinner. Minnesota, you might know, has a Guardian column. It's plant-based. Her famous cookbook is Made in India, which is one my mum always cooks from, but this is separated by ingredient and also like effort. So we've made some really wonderful things from here so far. We made a whole cauliflower pilaf, which was really good, and we're gonna make the aubergine kofta balls for dinner tonight, which look really nice. So that's always fun. I feel like we got rid of a lot of cookbooks when we moved abroad just because we weren't using them, but once in a while it's nice to get a good one. We cook from the roasting tin ones a lot, and then I also have a few favourite recipes in this one, much more veg, which is a River Cottage cookbook, as you can see. Very well loved, but I got rid of a lot of my, like, I don't know, the like popular vegan ones that were about at the time, just because I didn't really cook from them that much. But yeah, I'm excited to have a new one. I love earmarking, and we sit together and like work out what we're gonna make. So that's always nice and a bit more sort of interactive than Pinterest and sort of like that kind of meal planning, which tends to be a bit boring. This weekend meal planning is a bit more fun, I think. So do some cooking, and then tomorrow I think friends are coming around for lunch, given if I can make my back feel a bit better, which should be good. And hopefully I'll be able to knit again tomorrow and show you what I'm knitting on. Yeah, I think those are all the updates I have for you. But when I get a bit further, and I'm also going to start a new audiobook when I do some chores later, and I will let you know which one I pick. Hey friends, the lighting is terrible. I didn't plan on recording here, but I wanted to finish up this video because I am unexpectedly back in England. As you can see, this is not my apartment, but I didn't get to show you any knitting in this video, which is fine. I'm back to knitting a little bit now. I had some physio before I came here to try and sort out what's wrong with my shoulder. I did end up listening to an entire audiobook during this video, which I didn't even get to mention, which was The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie, which is... I've seen a few people on my Storygraph reading it. It's a very specific audiobook, I think, although I know it will have popular interest, but I've been following the Frankie family case for a long time. Sherry Frankie's mother is Ruby Frankie, and alongside her therapist / life coach, they committed heinous acts of abuse against Sherry Frankie's younger siblings. They are were a devout Mormon family, and Sherry Frankie has written this memoir explaining what it was like to grow up with her mum, sort of all the signs she saw that implied her mum was a narcissist, and the abuse she suffered at the hands of her mum prior to this extreme tragic incident that occurred with the younger siblings. I've been following this case as it unfolded because I am fascinated by Mormonism, so lots of the ex-Mormon channels I follow have been talking about it for a while. I thought for the most part the book was great. She does credit a writing collaborator in the back, which I think is now the au fait way of saying that you have a ghostwriter or you have someone helping you. But the audiobook is read by her herself, which I think obviously adds emotion and sort of gravitas to parts of the story. She talks also detailing sexual abuse or sexual assault that she experienced at the hands of a higher member of the Mormon church, who was meant to be sort of looking out for her during this time of turbulence with her family. Yeah, it's a really fascinating audiobook if you are interested in the case. I don't know how much, it doesn't have all of the context I think that you got from knowing the 8 Passengers and the Frankie Family YouTube channel in the past, but it does provide extra insight that we didn't have when the case was breaking and when we heard about these people. Sherry Frankie does a brilliant job of excluding any commentary on her younger siblings who are under the age of 18 and unable to consent. She talks a lot about family vlogging and the dangers it has, and how she wants to go on to prevent family vlogging from being a legal activity. And she talks, yeah, again, also about financial abuse that her and her siblings experienced, losing out on money that was meant for them through the, I forget what name, there is a law in the States that was passed named after one of the most famous child actors that's meant to support child labour rights when it comes to the entertainment industry, but because family vlogging and influencing in general has moved at such a fast pace compared to the entertainment industry and the law, children that regularly appear in family vlogs do not have the same protection and support as child actors, even though they are, although appearing as themselves, they are acting and creating content and entertainment that their parents are profiting from. So it opens up some really interesting discussions on family vlogging. I know there's a new documentary out, which I think Sherry Frankie features in, about the dangers of family vlogging, and I do watch a lot of content around that and sort of putting your children online and what that means and what we do with that and where the law will go in the future. I think it's really interesting to watch those two things move concurrently in the times that we live in. So the audiobook I thought was pretty good. It was interesting to hear about her faith and her journey with Mormonism and how she remains sort of in relationship with the church despite firstly the very specific, you can't say necessarily that the abuse she suffered was because of Mormonism, but it is, if you know a lot about Heidelberg religion, and in the book she does detail various ways that these acts and the beliefs that her parents held were so deeply tied to the church, and therefore they provided a fertile ground for abuse and for this really horrific kind of parental punishment and harm that Ruby Frankie caused through religious manipulation and faith manipulation, and this belief that you're doing something that's good for your children because you want them to not sin, I think is interesting. Yeah, I was fascinated by Sherry Frankie's progression through the story, and how her relationship with the church changed and how it remains, and sort of those kind of building blocks to her praxis now and how she views faith and things. So yeah, was a great listen. Would recommend it if you're at all interested. If you want more content around it and you're missing some things, the channel Georgian and McKay did a really excellent 2-part series on it, and they have also prior videos following the case, and so does the channel or podcast Mormon Stories. They did a lot of different panels around it at the time, particularly linked to this book. This is really getting in the weeds now, but there's like a very famous book that's technically been banned, I think, through mainstream Mormon churches, but it's the same written by this fringe Mormon writer, and it's the same book that the two people who killed their children and buried them in the garden, goodness, I can't remember their name. I think Sins of Our Mother was the name of the Netflix documentary about that. Yeah, Ruby Franke and Jodie Hildebrandt used the same book, or were inspired by the same book that that murderous couple were as well. So there's a lot of murder with the Mormons, and through the Mormon Stories podcast they talk a lot about why that is and why that happens, and sort of, yeah, the connections and the links. So if you want to dive into more content, I can recommend that. Otherwise, I am going to finish Breaststrokes. I think I've got like 30 pages left. I've really enjoyed it for the most part. It's been really soothing, and also a little, yeah, it does have content warning for like sexual assault, and not necessarily super explicitly, but just conversations around consent and sort of what it means to be a woman in the world, what it means to be a woman in London, which are interesting, but for the most part I'm really enjoying the context. There's also some really lovely or realistic, without frills, chronically honest representation through one of the characters, which I felt like Margot has done really sensitively and beautifully. And yeah, I felt like I was reading some of my own sentences when I was listening to or reading those paragraphs about the young character's experience of like becoming sick and what that means. So interesting. That's all I have for you in this video. Sorry for the crappy lighting at the end, but I will see you all again soon.